Hello everyone and welcome to another Watercolor Wednesday. I am Allison with the blog A Glimpse Inside, and today I have this fun little elf painting looking off onto the fall trees. Another super small painting, 3x3 only. So we do use 5 stamps and we have a lot of colors, mostly because this little guy, he has quite a few colors in him. But other than that, I mean, you can customize him and make him with much less colors, and you can be done probably a lot quicker. But let's get started. So, the stamps that we're going to use is from the covered bridge set. We're going to use the little bunch of birch trees right there. From the original foliage set, the mini grasses. From foliage set 2, this tiny little bunch of leaves right here. From the little elves set, we're going to use this one sitting with his leg going down. And then from the sitting places set, we're going to use the big rocks. And then as for markers, let's see here. We have 29 Prussian blue. Number 89 persimmon, number 86 African violet, number 18 dark brown, number 30 rosewood, number 15 olive green, number 17 steel blue, number 88 terracotta, number 7 orange, number 45 sepia, and number 6, brown. So again, lots of colors, lots of markers for this little painting, but you can easily change them up and use less. So we will also, I will also use my positioner for this painting. If you don't have one, that's fine. You can just eyeball it. This just makes it a lot easier if you do have it. And you can get this on the Art Impressions website, and I believe maybe on Amazon. I've never searched for them on Amazon, so not sure about that, but for sure Art Impressions website has it. So let's get started. Again, this is a little tiny 3x3, and we are going to start with the little elf himself here, and 45 sepia. So we're just going to ink him all up and decide where we want him to go. Since I want the trees back here in the background and him sitting on a rock, so I'm going to put him right side a little lower. I think I'm actually going to drop it a little lower than I did on my sample one here. And just kind of pop him down right there. And then we're going to let him be for a moment. And we're going to pull out our positioner and the big rock. So I'm actually only going to ink this section of the rock. I'm not even going to do this back side. So just this front side right here. And mostly because he will cover up that one lip. And so we only need just like a little bit of the rock. So I'm going to start with African violet and then follow it up with sepia. And then I'm going to tuck this into my positioner and stamp that in place. So now I'm going to take the positioner and kind of figure out right where I want this little rock to sit. And I think that's kind of a good place. So I'll put this over. And then pop that down. So there we go. Okay, so now on my palette, I'm going to put some sepia. I don't need really a lot of these colors. Here's some African violet. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the colors I'm going to paint my little elf in. So this is just orange. And then I have, not terracotta, number 6 brown. I'm going to do a little bit of dark brown. And then as well as, if I can find it, my Prussian blue here. Okay, so this will all be for the rock and the little elf himself. So I'm going to start with the rock that he's sitting on here. I'm going to do airbrush and water, pinch it off, and then I'm going to go ahead and still just drag a little bit of this color out of the lines. I'm going to leave kind of this back area as more of a highlight, but I still want just to kind of drag a little bit out. So I'm just going to kind of drag a little here, and then I'm going to drag a little bit out from him. Just a little bit, but not much. Okay. It's kind of hard to see, but I promise I did something. And then I'm going to mix my sepia and African violet together to get that gray tone. And then I'm going to paint that in. So I'm going to go along the bottom, kind of right under him, and then just kind of like go lighter. A little too much water on my brush there, so it kind of got real light. But then I'm just going to sit here and layer it until I get the shades of the rock and texture and stuff that I want. So kind of give that a second to dry. You can just come right back in. Okay. I'm going to try to kind of feather out a little bit here. Don't mind that it's over this way, but I don't want such sharp little lines. So I'm just going to feather that out. Okay, and so if this is kind of a little drier, I'm again kind of just, I'm going to add more like right where he's sitting, because obviously right under him would be a darker shadow. So I'm just going to kind of make this area darker with just African violet. If it gets a little too purple, just go right back over it with the sepia or your mixture, and it should kind of even itself out there. So, okay, I think I'm going to leave my rock for now. As I say that, I mess with it just a tiny bit. Actually, I'm going to add a little bit more color down here. It'll be a little darker near the ground. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're going to move on to our little guy himself, and I realized I forgot to do a color. I'm going to do some number 30 rosewood as well on my palette here. Okay, so I'm actually going to start with his pants, and I'm doing his pants in that Prussian blue. So I'm going to go kind of along his underside here and then down the back of his leg, and I'm going to try to leave a highlight right on his knee and kind of top of his thigh on this one, and kind of the same thing over here. You don't have to fill him in completely. If you still see some white spots, that is totally fine. You don't really want to try to get too close to those sepia lines. You don't want to accidentally pull too much out. We're not really dragging color out of the lines for him because he's so tiny. And then we'll just like go back in and add shading with another color. So I'm going to kind of let this sit for a minute, and we'll come back to this once it dries. So now I'm going to just take rinse that brush out really well. And now I'm just going to take orange and paint in his shirt. So kind of the same thing. I'm going to try to leave kind of a highlight up by his shoulders. And I am, excuse me, I am going to paint most of his shirt in. I'm just going to try to darken certain areas and leave like the center a little brighter. So I'm going to use some of that I think it's number 6 brown as well, just to kind of add a little bit of depth into his shirt. And if you want, you could even just add a little bit of dark brown just to kind of get some of those areas how you want them to be. Okay, so I'm going to come back to his pants really quick because they've dried for me. And I'm going to come back in with the Prussian blue and try to get right under his shirt and kind of back of his leg darker. And then I'm going to take a little bit of African violet and touch that in as well, because that will just help really get those shadows that we're going for. And I'm going to let that go. Okay, so we're going to move on to his head. We use a lot of colors for this, but he actually goes pretty quick. For his hat, I'm actually going to do the brown, number 6 brown, and paint in his hat. And we'll leave that highlight towards the top of his hat right there. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of that bright orange just because. And then I'm going to darken it up towards the back and bottom with that number 6 brown. Or I'm sorry, dark brown. So I'm just going to keep kind of layering again until you get those shades and that color that you're going for. If it gets a little too muddled, just, you know, take a break for a second. If you need to, add some lighter tones. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'm going to come in with this dark brown and add it into his hair. You can make his hair any color that you want. You know, you can make it black, you can do more yellow tones, you can keep this brown going, however you want to do it. He's totally customizable. Okay, his hat should be a little drier, so I'm going to add a little bit more of this brown into his hat, and I think just a little touch of sepia actually. Get that hat a little textured. And then his shoes, we're just going to do the orange itself again. Okay, so now you can just kind of give everything a once over, decide if it's good. I'll probably come back to those shoes in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and paint his skin. So his skin is the rosewood color. And it's super light, but to make it darker, you just keep layering over it. Try not to pull out too much color from those surrounding lines. If you're a little nervous, you could always do your skin tone first so you don't accidentally pull out color that you don't want to. I don't want to pull out any of that blue. I just tend to leave it for last for some reason. I don't know why. So again, the more you layer, the darker it will go, so you can give him whatever skin tone color that you want. Okay, and then I'm going to come back to these shoes because they're a little bright. I can get any of this color. And then actually right under this one, he has kind of a, you see the bottom of his shoe, so I'm just going to paint that in a little darker. Okay, I think he's pretty good. I'm going to come back with the skinny tip of my sepia here. And I'm going to kind of draw in an eyelash because there was one. I'm going to kind of darken up under his chin, kind of around his hat, his hair. Adding these lines back in sometimes, he just gets a little more 3D and it's nice. I'm going to kind of give him more of his little ties back on his shirt. And then kind of darken up anywhere. So his hand, under his bottom. If you want, you can kind of trace a little bit of that rock. And then let's see, I'm going to give that one because I kind of washed that one out. But there, I'm going to kind of go over these. And there you go. So now he kind of pops a little bit more. He looks a little more 3D-ish. Okay, so next step is just our little grasses. Super quick, super simple. And we're just going to kind of pop some grass in around our rock down here. Around his feet. If it covers his feet, that's fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of add a couple more, just kind of scattered. Kind of show he's in like a little meadow. Okay, we'll come back to that stamp in just a minute. And I'm not going to add water to that yet. We're going to do our tree. So for the tree, this is a really big stamp. And we are only going to use about that much of it. So I'm actually going to do the tree in sepia. And I want the trees to be shorter. And I don't need this entire bunch. So we're only going to do like these first 4 on the left side when you're looking at the stamp. And then we're only going to come up to about where the branches start to spread out. You can decide how long you want them. But I don't really want them super long. Because I want to make it almost look like that he's farther away looking at the trees from a distance. And I'm going to pull my positioner back out again for this. And we're going to flip this around. Stamp that. So then I can like figure out exactly where I want this little bunch of trees to go. So let's say like right about there. Move that out of the way. And then just press our trees in. So there are our trees. And then for the leaves, I stamped terracotta first. And then I went over it with the persimmon. Because I kind of wanted to give more of a depth and I didn't want it just to be like a solid color. So I kind of thought I liked how kind of like you see the darker of the terracotta that almost looks more like the red leaves are older, or some of the red leaves are older. It's not like a true pop of orange. So we will start with the terracotta. And you're just going to like stamp however and wherever. Give these trees some shape. You can make them super full. Only give them, you know, a couple leaves. Whatever you want. turn your stamp different directions. I'm going to try to leave, you know, just my normal like little border here. And then when I add water, I can always spread that color out if I want to make these leaves a little fuller. Let's see, let me spin this just a little more here. Gonna have a couple of leaves coming down our trees. I can spin it here. Okay. I'm gonna do one more kind of through here. Alrighty. So I'm going to go ahead and add water to that. And when you go over those trunks, you will kind of pull out some of that brown, and that is okay. Don't freak out. If you don't want to really pull that out, you know, you could always not ink up so far. Don't put too many leaves down below where you would have to cover that up. But again, it's fine. Just adds another little kind of dimension. You can go back over it with some of your red. Okay. So while those dry for just a second, I'm just going to a little bit of wash down our trees here. So I'm not going to be dragging a lot of color out of these. I'm just going to kind of touch where those little lines are, and I'm just kind of pulling out along one of the sides just to pull out some of that color. And since I didn't, once I did my stamp on my positioner, I didn't re-ink it. And so my trees aren't super dark, but I can always just go back with a pen and add them back in. It's fine. And then while, again, those leaves kind of dry, I'm just going to touch a couple of these grasses and just kind of pop a couple near the trees, but I don't want too many of them because I don't want to make it look like he's too close there. I just want to give a little texture back there. Okay, so let me clean off my terracotta here. And now we will come back with the persimmon. So right back, and we're just going to stamp right over that orange. So maybe you have some gaps you want to fill in. Maybe you don't like the shape of your tree. Just spin that stamp in all different directions and fill in. You could always do like one or two of these, like just only ink like a couple and place a couple on the ground if you want, that they have like fallen off. Possibilities are endless. Okay, that's all I'm going to do with the red. And then I am going to come back and just kind of touch those a little bit. You don't have to. You can leave them as is because I think it kind of pops really well against that terracotta, and then you see the shape of the leaves. But I do just kind of want to bring out some of that red a little bit here. Plus, I feel like when you add water, that color just pops so much more than when it's just like stamped on there. Okay, so we're almost done here. I'm going to come back to our grasses now, and I'm going to pull this color out of the lines, drag it up and out, go over that rock, you can go over his shoe, and you can just kind of drag this color. If you want a little more, just put a little green on your palette, which I think I may do for back here by our trees. So let's see. I'm just going to put a touch of green on my palette here. And then just kind of brush down here. And then if you want, you can add a little more down here. Okay, last thing. We have some steel blue. We're going to add in a little bit of sky behind him. Make sure my brush is clean, and then I'm just going to sit here and kind of add a little sky in. You don't have to do the whole painting. I'm going to kind of just touch between those trees just a little bit. Okay, so one last, I'm going to go over those trees just a tiny bit here. Some of these lines, give that knot back in there. And there you have it, this fun, cute little painting. I'm going to sign and date it, pop it in a frame, turn it into a card. It's just a super cute little fall edition. I hope you enjoy this painting, and I hope you join me next week when I have a all new watercolor tutorial for you. See you next time. Bye.